Hello everyone and welcome to Family Worship. I hope everyone is well and that you had a good week. How about everyone write down below something that you're looking forward to once coronavirus eases up and allowed to go out and about, whether it's eating out somewhere or just going to see your friends. But before this program, let's say a quick word of prayer. So, dear Heavenly Father, thank you for being with us throughout this week. I pray that you'll be with us now as we take part in this program and that all those listening online will gain something from this program. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Hello guys.
Hello.
It's good to talk to you. I think it's the first time I get to talk to you for more than 20, 30 minutes maybe. We've been here for some time, but I never had the chance to talk to you. So I'm happy we're here this afternoon. I want to talk to you about something that it was important to me when I was a bit younger, because I don't want to feel I'm too old now. And I spend a lot of time talking to my colleagues in school, people who don't used to go to church. And they were asking me questions that made me feel a bit uncertain about what are the best answers to give them. So I want to talk to you about our relationship with God in such a way that it makes sense for people who don't know God. They don't read the Bible, or they maybe don't even believe in God. So we don't look like weird people to them. How would you define, let's start with this question. How would you define your relationship with God? What is that?
Me? Yeah, go ahead. That's a good question. That's a very good question. I think I see my relationship with God like how I see my relationship with my dad. In some ways, not in all ways, and I'll explain why. I think I found a comfortability in talking to God like I'm talking to a human being. Because I do believe that some people have an ideology, that speaking to God is like something where you have to be on your knees all the time. You have to be in silence, like you have to close your eyes and put your hands together all the time. And it's not like that. It's, for me, how I'm talking to you now, Dan, is how you should talk to God, because my relationship with God isn't a formal thing. Sometimes I might go to God about losing a football game, as simple as that, or sometimes I might go to God about like how I'm struggling at uni, like how addiction might have me, or how I've lost my way because I'm going, like, not lost my way, but, well, yeah, lost my way. Anything I can go to God. So I think, as simple as I can say it, having a relationship with God is like having a best friend. But the reason why I said it's like a dad is because having that dad figure, having that father figure, knowing that he's got your back. And I think then the next question should be like, how do you know that God trusts me? But I'm sure we'll talk about that later. But I think the main reason, or the main way I can describe it is easier to someone else, is how you have your relationship with your dad and you can tell your dad everything. Yeah, that's how I have my relationship with God. He's somebody that I trust, somebody I can tell everything to, somebody that I know that will keep my secrets and won't tell anybody else.
All right, so you have secrets?
Yeah.
Okay. I think we all have. But that's interesting. So you don't think that we have to go to God with all sorts of stereotypes and in a very formal way, having our sentences pre-prepared. I know people today, they just go home and eat pre-prepared food, and they live in a place where everything seems to be pre-prepared. And they tend to see the faith and their relationship with God this way. But what I hear you saying is that we should have a very normal and friendly and authentic relationship with God, as if He's right here and He knows what you need, and He's willing to talk to you in a very simple way. Do you agree with that, Al?
I do. I think when I was younger, I started off kind of seeing God as almost like a judge. He's God, so I know He loves me, but at the same time, it was in a way as if I do something wrong, then there's a consequence, and He's the one who's going to be straight on me for it. So seeing God in that way, it damages the relationship. It's not as normal as you'd say it needs to be. As I've grown up, I've realized that that's not how grace works, and kind of understanding how God's love is towards me, how His grace works towards me, has kind of changed that into more of a, like you say, normal relationship. I can go to Him about anything that's on my mind. But I do think that when you see God as the person who's almost like out to get you, it changes completely how you approach Him and how your relationship is with Him.
What do you think in our life is the most dangerous thing that can affect our relationship with God?
Probably our relationships with others. Same way you said that your relationship with God is similar to your relationship with your dad. Some people aren't fortunate to have that kind of proper role model or parental guidance.
You had a bad experience with your dad. You don't want to say God.
Yeah, exactly. So I think definitely how we see, or our relationships with others, or how relationships have gone in the past can definitely affect how we see God. Definitely.
So in this case, obviously you are a very happy case where your dad is, I know him, and I know he's proud of you, and I understand why you're saying you want to see God in this way. But how do you know that seeing God in the similar way you see your dad is not just something that you created in your mind? How do you know that's real, that God really is like that? How do you know that God is not like that bad dad and it's a nightmare for you? How can you make sure that, okay, I'm 100% sure that in a real way God is that kind of person?
No, that's a good question. I think first year of university, I definitely had the mentality of, do you know what? Is God real? Like, is God there for me? Or is God that person that I feel like my dad should be? Or my dad is, not should be, because he's a good person. And no, I definitely asked that to myself, but then, like, I know that everybody says it, but it's so true. Like, I couldn't tell anybody how true this is. Like, you have to, it's like how you meet a person, you have to learn about that person to understand what they're about, or you have to learn about that person to know what their intentions are.
How do you learn about God? You cannot see him, you cannot touch his hands, you cannot speak to him like I speak to you right now, you cannot call him, you cannot text him on WhatsApp. How do you learn about him in such a way that you know that it's not just the creation of your mind, it's not just an emulation of your desires, right? How do you know?
I think how I did it was it had to be studied. Like, I had to study the word, because really in the Bible it says, like, if you wanna know me, you have to seek me.
But isn't the Bible a very old and strange book that people may not be able to understand today?
And that's the thing, like, it is, and I understand why people say that. But sometimes recipe books can be old, but it still doesn't mean it's not relevant today.
Right.
Like, I think with the Bible, is as long as old as it is, it still has guidance that is relevant today, and it's definitely relevant to my life. Like, one thing I've had to do is I've had to look back at the old book, and looking back at the old book, God has shown me things that I wouldn't have been able to see before. For example, how I look at the world now is not how I would have looked at the world a year ago, because I wouldn't have had that knowledge of what God has shown me. And it's not a case where sometimes God doesn't always. I think one thing we try to do is we try and imagine that God will come to us in a specific way, when he doesn't. God can come to us in all ways. Sometimes reading the Bible, that one thing that you're saying, oh, it's old, I don't want to read, God will speak to you through that. Or just reading it, God might come to you through a vision, or God might say something to you. So I know that it's an old book, and I know that it's a book where, like, people are like, oh, it's been written so many years ago, we always talk about it, like, we need something current. But for me personally, if you want to see something current, if you want to see God, you need to know his personality, and his personality is in that book.
Right. So if you read that book and you find some principles to conduct your life, and you see that once you've done that and you follow those principles, things have been better in your life. They are improving, and you become a better person, a better self, and your relationship with others are influenced in a very, very good way. You'd say that book is not only relevant, but it's also true and authentic and genuine. How do you know, in your own experience, that God is not just something that you imagine in your mind, that when you say you talk to him, you're not talking to your own
Yourself.
self? How do you know that?
I think it comes through, again, as you're saying, almost learning to hear him. And again, I think it's through time and experience, as you're saying, studying. That's all relationships. If you take it's time and experience. I'm not going to know if you're a good friend unless I've spent enough time with you and I've had enough experiences with you to say that, yeah, Jake's one of my great friends. And so I think it's similar with God. There's going to be times where you definitely wonder, okay, is this really, can I really go here? Am I going to get answers this way? Is he going to provide for me now? And then when he does, it shows you that, okay, well, not only did I think, you might not have thought he would, and sometimes he does anyway, just to show you. Sometimes, like, with myself, like, as you're saying with uni, there's been times where I might have something that looks impossible, and then it turns into something that I give up in myself. So now I know it's not me, and I've come to the point where it's definitely not my own effort because I gave up already, but yet something comes out of it, and I can only say that was God. Again, that's an experience, but as you said with the studying, you can see the ways in which he usually moves. And then when he moves like that in your life, you can say, okay, that's definitely an experience that I have for myself. God has almost proved himself to me that he is here and he is in my corner.
Right.
So I would say...
Am I right if I assume that in all these scenarios, it's always something good happening to you, where you identify God being the one who's involved in your life? So you're going through some difficulties in your life and you prayed, you spoke to him, and somehow that situation got better, and you think, okay, this is God. I've just prayed for that. I've just spoken with him, and it cannot be a coincidence. You may say it's a coincidence if that happens once, twice, 3 times, but if that happens every step you make and it's always that kind of coincidence, then something is, But how about when God doesn't answer, or at least he doesn't answer in the way you would expect him to do? How about then?
I think it's almost the same. It's the same as time and experience, and almost again, if you realize, I think even in the no, we spoke about this in sometimes in our youth chats, and even sometimes a no is an answer, and you can have to listen for why it's a no. It might not just be a no, that's it, no. It's usually a no and the reason why, or a no and another opportunity, or maybe it is just a no, but I don't feel like he's ever ignored you. It's usually something deeper that you can go into it with that. And it's almost hard to do it that way. It's easy to say, okay, something good's happened, that was God. It's harder to say something bad's happened, that was God. Let me find out why he said that. It goes back to really hearing his answer. His answer might be a no, but if you've heard that it's from him, it feels it's not a hopeless no. There's still hope if it's a no from God.
So a no doesn't mean that he doesn't care.
No, I wouldn't
Or
say
that
so.
he's ignoring you.
No,
right?
I think adding on to Aaron's point as well, I think this is a question that I always used to ask myself quite a while ago. It's not even long ago. But with God, when you asked him a question and he might ignore you, might say no, one thing that annoyed me was, okay, you said no, but why? Why?
Right.
Do you know what I mean? Like, if there's something you wanted, or there's something you believe that will benefit you in the future, Lord, why have you said no? So I've identified, you said no, so you don't want me to have it. But why? And then I understand why.
Do you always get the answer to your why?
No, I don't. Like, I can't even lie to you. Like, I don't get answers all the time. I'm not going to sit here and say I get answers all the time, because I don't. Like, there's
nobody gets them all the time.
There's been a couple of times where I've prayed, and obviously, to be fair, sometimes I don't even hear him saying no. It just doesn't happen. So I'm like, okay, I guess that's a no.
Right.
But I think the thing what gets to me is obviously why he hasn't answered my why. So why haven't you just done this, Lord? And then when he hasn't answered the why, I think one thing that gets to me is, Lord, there's people that don't believe in you. Like, there's people that don't think you're real. There's people that think I'm crazy because I believe in you. why can't you give me an explanation or them an explanation? Because they're just going to say, well, you're just silly, bro. Like, all you're doing is praying to the air, and the air's giving you nothing.
I think you assume there that if God gives you an answer to your why, even the why can have at least two meanings. One, when you ask why, is what was the cause for, what's the reason behind this? And another why is when you ask what is the purpose for this. So when you ask God why, you have to be very careful in your mind to clarify which why are you asking him about. That's number one. And number two, one of our assumptions is that when we get the answer to the question why, that will give us meaning and understanding of the situation or whatever happens, and understanding that will help us in a certain way or not. But I think that that's not always true. We may get the answer and still not understand. Sometimes we can get the answer, get the understanding, and still not accept it. So receiving the answer, getting the understanding, that doesn't help you very much if you've already decided in your mind that you're only going to go with a certain type of answer that you like, right? So in this scenario, how do you deal with your doubts? Because I suppose we all have doubts.
I think if I had to just take it down another level, I think I do have big doubts. Well, I try not to have doubts, but naturally I have doubts. Because, like, if I had to take this deep, like, I've been told stories of my dad's mum, my grandma. She's on a dying bed, and basically, my dad said to God, like, my dad prayed to God. My dad was like, "Yo, take everything, take my car, take my house, take it all, just save my mum." And it's deep because I feel like Dad's reasoning for keeping grandma alive wasn't selfish. Like, Dad would have wanted my grandma to see me go to university. Like, my family, my side of the family, not all of us went to university. I think only 2 went to uni, me and my sister Cassandra. And also, like, there's been people I know, young people that have committed suicide, and they've been to the point where they're unconscious, and been to the point where they're fighting for their life. And I'm like, Lord, please, like, please hear me. Like, if you created a miracle now, look at the people that would. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's not even the stuff I'm asking for.
It's self-evident that the best scenario here is to heal them or help them in this place, and nothing happens.
And it doesn't work out. And I'm like, do you know what, Lord? I've asked for these things for the benefit of not just me, but of your people. Do you know what I mean? Like, my grandma, okay, I take benefit for that. Like, I would love my grandma to see me at uni. But I didn't know this boy. It was actually a friend of a friend that knew this boy. And he went and did something dangerous. I remember we prayed the day before, and he passed away the same day. And I was just like, do you know what?
Why?
I prayed for the right reasons. I don't believe that I prayed knowing that he would do it. Do you know what I mean? I was convinced. I was like, yeah, it's gonna happen. But he still passed. And I think that's where my doubts come from. Like, I've done everything right. I did everything according to the rule book. What else did I have to do? Like, is it me? Am I covered in sin that the prayer didn't hear you? Do you know what I mean? And that's, for me, that's where my doubts come from.
Okay, so how do you deal with that? How would you deal with that, Aaron? I suppose you've gone through some experiences like that or similar. Yeah. How can you still not give up to God when things don't work through in the way you expected?
I think that, again, it goes back to what I was saying earlier about the way we see God, and almost the way we see how almost basic good and evil works. So a lot of the times we feel like if we're good, if we do the right things, good will happen. That probability, it says in Psalms, that is the case. But then again, in the same wisdom book, I think it's Ecclesiastes, they go and say that sometimes even the bad things happen to good people, good things happen to bad people. And it's not just that because you've done everything good and something good didn't happen. That's
just, this is the life
God
on earth.
Right. Same in Job. We see Job got stripped of everything. And then the ancient wisdom at the time was that he must have done something, otherwise nothing bad would have happened to him. And God had to kind of come down and talk to him and say, well, okay, I'll let you micromanage the world for the day, just for the day. And then he kind of took him on a tour of the universe and just asked Job, like, okay, so where did the constellations come from? Would you be able to put the stars in the sky? And then I think for me, that kind of, it humbled me in my own mind, because I had a similar mind to Job. There must be something wrong. Either I haven't done anything wrong, so God must be unjust.
Why do you think we have this idea in mind that if we suffer or something bad happens to us or to somebody who we love, there must be something that either we did wrong or the person himself did something wrong? Why do we have something like that in mind? Because that's not true necessarily.
Yeah.
Yes, sometimes people suffer the consequences of their choices and their actions. This is completely true, but that is almost all the time evident.
Yeah.
You don't have to think too much through to notice that, okay, he did something wrong and then he suffers the consequences of his choices. But sometimes you don't see that. So why would you assume immediately, I've done something and now it's like God is punishing me? Is God that kind of person? Do we have that kind of relationship with him where when we do good stuff in our life, when we are the best person we can be, he's okay with us, he's our friend, and when we make a wrong step somewhere, then boy, he will punish you or he will do something for you to wake up and, is God that kind of person?
No, I don't believe so. I feel like, again, that comes out of a place of serving God then through fear of that if I do go wrong,
right.
Something's gone on my back straight away. Whereas serving God out of love is a completely different kind of mentality, different perspective. It comes back to, like I was saying, kind of recognizing who he is and how he sees us, and his love for us changes almost the way we see him.
So should we accept that sometimes there are life experiences where we will not be able to understand why certain things happen and for what reason?
Yeah.
And despite of that, we should still trust God that he has the best intentions for our lives. And of course, he's God, so you can't understand everything about him. Then there's no wonder why we cannot understand everything about our life.
But then how do you explain that to somebody that, because I feel like that's easier said than done for us, because we, like we said at the start, we have that relationship with God where we're able to understand that even though wrong things happen, do you know what I mean? God still loves us, and God has a better intention for us. However, like if I had to take it back to that the boy that passed away, how do we say that to his family? Do you know what I mean? Because obviously they're not keen on God, or they don't know of God as such. So how do we explain what we've just said to people that don't believe in God, or people that haven't seen God before?
I think that one of the best explanations is silence. I mean, if God doesn't answer your prayers or my prayers or his and hers prayers, if he doesn't give you an answer on why certain things happen to you, who am I to come and explain you why? I don't have an explanation. So the best thing I can do is just to be there for you. Our physical presence will help the person suffering more than any words.
That's true. It's true. Being comfortable with the why, almost unanswered, or being comfortable with the fact that something bad's happened and there might not be an answer I can give you at the moment. Or I might not know why this has happened, but almost being comfortable in, as you said, just being silent and helping in other ways.
There's a story in the Bible, you definitely know it. We learn throughout the Gospels that Jesus had his 12 disciples with him almost all the time. But apart from that, he had a family of friends. And whenever he was tired or he needed human sympathy, human friendship and love, he just go and visit this family. And you know about Mary, Martha, and Lazarus. They were all three siblings. And on one particular occasion, Jesus learns about Lazarus being sick. And he receives word from the sisters that Lazarus, his friend, and that's how he is presented, Lazarus, your friend, is sick, and his sickness is to death. He's going to die. Come and help him. Until then, Jesus just performed so many miracles. He healed strangers he's never met until then and never before. And now he hears about his friend. And after he learns about this message, he decided to spend 4 more days in that place. And only after that, he will go to visit his friend. Obviously, by the time he gets there, Lazarus is dead, and he's dead, and he's already in the grave. So the sisters come to him, and they said, Lord, if only you were here, my brother wouldn't have died. So often we think, Lord, if only you were here, this would have never happened to me. Whatever that is, right? We assume that only happened because God was not there. But what I want us to understand is this. If God is not there, that doesn't mean he doesn't have things under his control. And he tells them, listen, whoever believes in me, even if he died, he will still live. Okay, it doesn't make sense to us. Fine, so what? I mean, it doesn't make sense, but if it doesn't make sense, it doesn't mean it's not true. And let's be honest, we're not talking to other people. We talk with God about things that we cannot really understand. So the only way we can approach something that we don't understand is either with trust or with doubt. The problem is when you have doubts, you're not going anywhere.
No.
You're not moving anywhere. So why not try to trust?
The element of faith in any kind of relationship is an element of faith.
It's true.
So it's the same with our relationship with God. I think in the same story though, it's interesting that even though Jesus knew what was happening and he knew that he would eventually, in the story he goes on to raise Lazarus from the dead, it still says that he wept. So it's like he knew exactly what happened. He knew why he waited. He knew he was going to raise his friend from the dead, but he still cried. It's almost like the emotion was still there. It didn't take away the fact that he's lost a friend. It didn't take away the fact that everyone was mourning. And he cried himself. And it's almost interesting to wonder why.
Because he cares about people. There's another story with another Mary. Jesus is in the grave. He's put in the grave on a Friday evening, just very, very little before the Sabbath to come. And for the Jews, Sabbath was a very important day. When that day came on Friday evening after sunset, they were not able to do anything. So when Jesus died, they just had enough time to take him down the cross and put him in the grave. But they had a tradition. They had to prepare the body for the grave. And they haven't had that chance to do it because the Sabbath was there. So some women, especially Mary, was between these women, they decided to go early to the grave in the cemetery on Sunday morning, right? Early in the morning, so they prepared the body. So when they get there, the grave is empty. And all of them are running back to the disciples to give them the news that the Romans or somebody, they just have taken the body of their Lord. And it's not there, they've stolen it. But Mary, she's still there, weeping. And at some point, she sees Jesus himself. And he's asking her, woman, why do you cry? I mean, what kind of question is that? Why do you cry? But he's asking her not because he doesn't know the answer. And that question was not ridiculous. She was supposed to understand why the grave is empty. But so he wants to wake her up. And she talks to him. He talks to her. She doesn't see him. She doesn't realize she's talking to Jesus. And they're still exchanging a few words. And then at some point, Jesus says, Mary. And when he says those words, she's, oh Lord, it's you. So she recognizes him. So I learned from there that just because we don't recognize Jesus, it doesn't mean he's not there.
He's not there.
He's there, you talk to him, you see him, you don't know it's him. But just because you don't see him, it doesn't mean he's not there. It doesn't mean he doesn't care. It doesn't mean he doesn't know what happens to you. It's just you not being able to see him. So I'm wondering how many times in our life we just don't see him. And it's not his fault, it's our fault we cannot see him. So we go through life thinking that, oh, he's not there, so he doesn't have things under control. So we are panicking now, and we have so many doubts. Or we don't see him and we think, oh, he's not here, he doesn't care, he's ignoring me. But all this time he was there asking you, why are you weeping, why are you crying? There's no reason for you to cry. I'm right here, I have everything under control. Just trust me. I don't know if that's how you see your relationship with Jesus and those who listen to us today. But I hope and pray that we will all learn about Jesus in such a way that we can trust him no matter what happens.
No, definitely, man. Yeah, I think people need to start seeing it in us as well. This is where, for me as Christians, and for everybody, we need to let's do it. Let's not just say it. Let's actually try and trust God with everything. Like I put trust in this chair. Let's do that with God. You know what I'm saying. So I think you've definitely showed me a different way of looking at that. And yeah, thanks, man. That's it. Man. You know what I'm saying?
That was alright.
Right. Thank you, guys. It was nice talking to you.
Thank you.
Yes.
I hope you'll be blessed, and I hope we'll meet again just to share how our life has been changed because we've learned new things about God. And he's obviously, like in our relationship with our friends and parents, we change and they change. In what way we'll see our relationship being transformed because we learn new things about God.
Yeah, and I think one thing to highlight quickly is every relationship with God is going to be different with everybody. Like, don't expect my relationship to be the same as yours, or don't expect my relationship to be the same as yours, because it's not going to be like that.
We are different, so God will treat us in different ways.
Exactly. So I think that's one good thing to point out, man.
I think just before we close, for people who might not have a sense of God that we do, I know we touched on it a bit before, but I wanted to just ask you if you had any almost advice or tips for them to get to know God practically, just so they have something to take away.
I was an atheist when I was a teenager. And I grew up in a home where there was only one Bible, and only my grandmother would read that book. But one day, because I was, I love to read, especially stories. So one day I decided just to read that book, because I've heard about many stories. When my grandma would read to my grandpa, I would just listen and hear about something very interesting happening with different characters from the Bible. So one day I thought, why not try to read it and see what's happening? And so I started with Genesis, because I was trying to find a story that I heard my grandma reading to my grandpa, and I didn't know exactly where to find it. So I thought, why not starting with the beginning, and at some point I will definitely get there. I didn't know, well, the Bible is like thick like this. So I thought, okay, let's try from the beginning. And I started with Genesis and all that. And by the time I reached to that story, it was David and Goliath. Right? And that's somewhere about the half of the Old Testament. So by the time I reached there, I realized I was reading because I really enjoyed reading that book. And I just realized I was a different kind of person. And I had my colleagues and my friends asking me, Dan, why are you doing this? You used to speak this way, you used to do this, you used to like doing this kind of things. And you're not that kind of person anymore. And I didn't realize that until they made me aware. And then I realized, oh wait, this is because of the Bible. So I'll just advise you, you don't believe in God, fine, no problem. Maybe I don't believe in that God you don't believe in too. Right? So take the Bible and start reading. You may not understand much in the beginning, but keep reading, because you're not alone. When you read that book, you're not alone. Somebody's there with you to guide your mind, to give you understanding that you need at a particular time. Just trust that and read it. Don't be afraid that your life will be changed. You might need that change.
Okay. That's it, man.
That's my advice. Let me bless you before we leave.
Yeah.
Father in heaven, we thank you for our discussion. We are here because we are humans created in your image. Our life is not easy for various reasons, but we trust you. We choose to trust you and have faith in you. So bless us, bless Aaron, and bless Jacob, and help us, Lord, to learn more about you, to love you more, and to make this world a better place because we got to know you. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Amen. And
When peace like a river attendeth my way, when sorrows like sea billows roll, whatever my lot you, Lord, has taught me to say, it is well with my soul. Let us sing together.
Sorrows like sea billows
soul. Our next song, we will sing, He's Sweet, I Know. He's sweet, I know. The storm clouds may rise and stormy billows may roll, but I'll tell the world wherever I may go that I have found a Saviour, and He is sweet, I know.
Amen.
You sing the first time. He's sweet. He's sweet, I know. He's sweet, I know. Storm clouds may rise, stormy winds may blow, but I'll tell the world. But I'll tell the world wherever I may go that I've found a Saviour, and He's gonna take it up. He's sweet, I know, class. He's sweet, I know. He's sweet, I know. Storm clouds may rise, stormy winds may blow. I'll tell the world wherever I may go that I found a Saviour, and He's sweet, I know. Sing it one more time. He's sweet. He's sweet, I know. He's sweet, I know. Storm clouds may rise, and stormy winds may blow, but I'll tell the world wherever I may go that I found a Saviour, and He's sweet, I know that I found a Saviour, and He's sweet, I know. Amen. My heart can sing. My heart can sing when I pause to remember a heartache here is but a stepping stone along the trail that's winding always upward. This troubled world is not my final home, but until then,
like to thank you all for being here with us today. Thank you for watching our programs. I hope and I trust that you were blessed and you've learned something helpful for your lives. And if you are willing to support our programs, please see the details on the screen and feel free to give as you feel in your heart. We just want to let you know that next Saturday we will have a break and we will come back with our new programs in 2 weeks' time. Until then, may you be blessed abundantly. Thank you all.